The year is 1492. In the Venetian Republic, a diplomat suddenly loses his life in his chambers after dinner. There is not a single mark of impact on his body, not a single trace of a toxin in his system. Physicians rule it a heart attack. His family mourns. The state archive closes another file, but inside that diplomat's ribcage, lodged with millimeter precision perfectly in the center, is a piece of glass, one that melted and vanished within seconds from his body heat. History tells us that shadow figures were ordinary fanatics. But they were not ordinary. They were biomechanical and metallurgical engineers. Mainstream history dismisses their tools as primitive tricks. But when you examine the surviving physical evidence through the lens of engineering, what you find is not a trick. They are flawless designs that hacked human anatomy, terrified states, and consequently had their blueprints deliberately erased from history. Here are 8 hidden devices that someone never wanted you to know existed. The Murano glass dagger. The late 15th century. Venice's Guild of Glassmakers produced more than just the world's finest mirrors. Under the orders of the Council of Ten, they designed a specialized tool. But this was no simple piece of shaped glass. It was a hollow structure containing microcapillaries. When this tool reached its target, a hidden spring mechanism in the hilt triggered, delivering a specific chemical formula directly into the circulatory system. Even more intriguing, the tip was specially heat-treated to break off and remain beneath the tissue. The body's fluids would absorb the chemical, and the glass would shatter and dissolve over time. The design destroyed its own evidence. When Napoleon invaded Venice, he couldn't find a single mold for the production of these pieces. The masters had been silenced, the documents burned, and all that remained were rumors. Liangyi Hu, assassin's teapot. In ancient Chinese dynasties, chemical interventions were so common that emperors wouldn't take a single sip without ensuring they drank from the same vessel as everyone else. If the man sitting across from you pours you wine from the same pitcher he just used to fill his own glass, you are safe. Or so you think. But you aren't. The Liangyi Hu. This wasn't just a toxin bottle, it was a flawless fluid dynamics laboratory housing 2 separate hidden chambers. Beneath the handle of the teapot was an invisible air hole. When the operator covered one of the holes with a finger, atmospheric pressure engaged, preventing the liquid from flowing. From the exact same teapot, wine flowed for the emperor, and a dangerous liquid flowed for the target. Centuries before Western science formulated Boyle's law and atmospheric pressure, Chinese ceramic masters had turned air pressure into a devastating tool. Most of the artisans who knew the mechanism of these teapots were erased from history to keep the secret safe. Kakute, the hidden spiked ring. Edo period Japan. A samurai thinks he has caught you, grabbing your arm and neutralizing you. But in that very moment, his fate is sealed. The Kakute was an engineering marvel that featured 2 or 4 inward-facing spikes, looking like an ordinary ring from the outside. Mainstream historians describe it as a simple grappling tool. The truth is much darker. The Kakute's spikes were pressure point manipulators, explicitly designed to target vital arterial flow points. Usually dipped in toxic plant extracts, these spikes penetrated the system with a light grip, using the victim's own resistance like a pump to spread the formula in seconds. The blacksmiths who forged this ring balanced the hardness of the metal and the sharpness of the tip perfectly. It would leave no obvious mark on the outside of the skin, but it would pierce deep within. This invisible touch technology terrified state authorities so much that most of the rings were confiscated and melted down. The technique itself remained only as a ghost in oral tradition. Ruan Jian, the belt sword. A piece of metal you wrap around your waist like a belt, but when you pull the buckle, it transforms into a 90-centimeter instrument of no return. The Ruan Jian. Modern material scientists are working on memory alloys today. But in 17th century China, shadow agents possessed a forging technique that made steel bendable without deforming, yet turned perfectly rigid when swung through the air. Mainstream historians claim it was just a thin piece of sheet metal. But a thin sheet doesn't impact, it only scratches. The Ruan Jian cleaved through armor, bypassing even the hardest structures. The secret of how this steel's molecular arrangement could behave as both liquid and solid was officially scrubbed from written history by the censors of the Qing dynasty, who deemed it too dangerous to exist. Emeici, Emei piercers, the final years of the Ming dynasty. Emerging from the misty temples of Mount Emei in China, This design is often belittled by mainstream historians as a simple defensive tool evolved from women's hairpins. But the Emeici was no simple tool. Featuring a spinning ring right in the center, these 30-centimeter double-pointed steel rods were a biomechanical system that turned the human hand into a high RPM drill. The operator would slip the ring over their middle finger, making the main structure completely invisible within the palm. In the moment of motion, there was no need for shoulder or arm muscles. With just the micro movements of the finger joints, the system would begin to spin, utilizing centrifugal force to reach dozens of revolutions per second. This was a zero-distance technology that bypassed defenses with zero effort, completely collapsing internal dynamics in seconds. When the Qing dynasty took the throne, they burned all manuscripts detailing this rotational kinetics and put an end to its masters. All that was left behind was the legend of a harmless hairpin, Komuso Shakuhachi. In 17th century Japan, there were Zen monks, Komuso, wandering the roads. They wore woven straw baskets over their heads, concealing their identities, and played a bamboo flute called a shakuhachi. The shogunate had permitted these monks to travel. This remains one of the most devastating intelligence failures in history. Certain clans transformed these flutes into flawless pneumatic systems. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary musical instrument, but the inside of the bamboo had been sanded down to reduce the coefficient of air friction to zero, smoothed out like the barrel of a modern sniper rifle. As the monks played the flute, they could launch a toxic-coated dart, resting in a hidden chamber with a single, powerful breath. The melody drifting from the flute would be the last sound heard, as breath and acoustics turned into unforgiving ballistic pressure. The monks' baskets were banned years later, and the secrets of the bamboo masters were buried in history. Haladie, used along the ancient routes of India and Syria, this tool consisted of two curved blades extending in opposite directions, joined by a guarded hilt in the middle. Sounds like an ordinary thing, right? Until you see it in the hands of a master. The Haladie possessed a center of balance that perfectly aligned with the rotational angles of the human wrist. As a defender's strike was blocked, in that exact tenth of a second, the other blade pivoted toward the target's vulnerable point. The center of gravity was so flawless that the instrument maintained its own momentum. Colonial governors in India systematically wiped out the Rajput training camps that utilized it. Why go beyond banning an object and eliminate everyone who knows how to use it? Because knowledge is far more dangerous than steel. Katar, an instrument with a horizontal grip and an H-shaped thrusting mechanism. When you examine it anatomically, the Katar turns the human arm and shoulder muscles into a hydraulic piston. A sword loses energy when swung. The Katar, however, focuses the entire weight of the body directly onto a single point. During the Mughal Empire, it was designed to pierce thick chainmail armor. The angles on the grip bar provided a physiological support system that prevented the wrist from breaking upon impact. During British colonization, the production blueprints for these designs were confiscated on the grounds of being primitive. Yet, what was primitive was not the design. It was the arrogance of the colonizers who failed to understand it. 8 designs, 8 flawless engineering solutions, and the massive silent void they left behind. This is no coincidence. Mainstream history wants us to believe these blueprints were simply lost to time. But time is not a selective destroyer. Time decays everything equally. Every single technology on this list was systematically erased from the face of the earth by a papal decree, a colonial law, or the secret order of a shogun. Because an engineering feat they cannot control is an empire's greatest nightmare. You can confiscate the object, you can eliminate the master, but once the scientific principle of how and why that system works spreads, no king's throne is ever safe again. That is why they didn't just destroy the object, they destroyed the idea. Most people look at these fragmented remnants in museums, say, "What interesting shapes," and walk away. You are still watching because you can see the trail left by that missing engineering genius. You know what that void actually means. And this channel was built exactly for minds like yours. Subscribe now and lock yourself into this archive. Which of these 8 designs do you think would have changed the course of war and history the most, had it not been erased? Build your argument. Let the others challenge you. The floor is yours.